Welcome to Hey Olexa, I'm Ryan, this is Michelle, and we are a millennial couple trying to get out of debt so that one day we can live our dream life.
So we've all seen the basic budgeting videos. In fact, we have one too. If you haven't seen it, we'll link it below for you. It's also going to be somewhere in this upper region of the video. Not actually beside my head, but this video isn't exactly that. We can call it like a 2.0 version of a budget or a fancy budget. I don't know. It's a working title. Nonetheless, this video is going to be all about budgeting in a different way. The trouble is that life isn't as simple as income minus expenses. What I mean by that is if you're anything like us, we tend to think about all the things we could do because we have so many dreams of all these things that we have interest in. But then life kind of creeps in the way. There are these things that we need for this trip, or we might need to go grab this, or maybe you go out of town for a wedding and pack the entirely wrong season of clothes because the weather changed on a dime.
Not speaking from personal experience.
Maybe it is. That's where I got this shirt. All that to say, sometimes life throws a wrench in your plans. So this is how we're saving to really figure out what we want to do with our lives for our dreams. Without further ado, a spreadsheet done by Ryan.
I love spreadsheets. This is just a super simple Excel spreadsheet. There's nothing terribly fancy about it. No power queries or pivot tables or macros. But we will leave a link in the description so you guys can access it if you want a good starting point. All right, so there's a lot to look at. Don't worry, I'm going to walk you through it. It's really not that crazy. And just so you know, you can see it's our demo tab. So this is not our numbers or anything. It's just some dummy numbers. I actually kind of mixed a couple different things together so that you could kind of get an idea of different ways that you can use this. But starting off, on the very right, we made just a list, literally, of all the different things that we're saving for, different things that we want one day, whether it be something that we're hoping to have in the next few months or something that we want to have 10 years down the road. Anything can go on this list so that you don't forget about it. Because, how many times do you look back and think, oh, shoot, totally forgot I had that dream, and now we don't have the money for it, so it can't happen, or whatever. Then, obviously, we've got dollar amounts, guesstimates on those, and target dates for when we would like to reach that dream. And then we went through later and highlighted all, is it highlighted? Highlight? Anyway, we went through and we highlighted in blue the different things that we actually are saving for. Again, this isn't our list, but you could do the same thing. Then, if we cut over to the far left, we've got our minimum expenses. So, over here, these are things that, we basically need to survive for the most part. There are a few things on here where, we did throw some stuff in there that we really just don't want to give up. But this is hey, somebody loses a job, the worst of the worst happens, and we have no income coming in. How much money do we need? Then we jump over to the plan section. So this is if you were making your budget, these things would also be on your budget for normal life kinds of things, including the things that you want to save for. Then we have some additional budget items or expenses that are things that we're considering. I'm going to get back to that in just a second. But just to kind of show you what's out there. Now coming together in the very middle of the spreadsheet, I don't know why it's in this order, but we have all of our totals. So our total expenses, followed by down at the bottom, we have our total income. And then in the middle, the very middle of everything, you have our target income. So this is basically the total of all of our income together. So if you add up all these numbers, and then I have this 2 salaries option as well. Again, going to get to that in a second. And finally, our monthly savings buckets. So let me walk you through now, that's the gist of it. But how do you really use this? What does it all mean? So, like I already mentioned, all your minimums are right here because it is important to know, hey, if one of us loses our job, how much, can we live on the other person's salary, for instance? That's one thing I'd really like to know. If the worst happens, how much money do we need just to stay alive and keep rolling? Then over here is kind of when we get to the plan section. Again, that's this is where we really get to play around with what is our dream, and this gives us a chance to really put all this in perspective because you can start looking at your expenses to consider and say, okay, and you see your totals here in the middle, so you know, like, are we reaching our goals or not? Are we able, like, how much are we really able to save? How much are we really able to pay off in debt? Those sorts of things. So what I did with each of these, you can kind of see in the cells up here, is I actually, like, for instance, travel on this particular spreadsheet is one of the goals. And we're saying, okay, if we want to go on a trip, say, later this year, it costs $2,400 for us to get the plane tickets, the hotels, all that stuff. And we want to be able to go, I said this year, by February 2023, so early next year. How much money do we need to be saving every month to be able to make that happen? And so we do the math on this. We made this a couple months ago, or I guess a month ago, so that's why the number 12 is in there, because it's about 12 months away. So you basically take your total amount there, divided by the 12 months you have until the goal, which is February 2023. That means we need $200 a month to be able to pay for our travel that we want to do down the road. And then we have the same thing for other goals. So, like, paying off loans on time, car savings, maybe you're saving for a baby, those sorts of things. All that can go in here. And it allows you to really see, like, really quickly, what is your total income, and are you able to pull that off? Then to the right up here by our expenses, you can see how much money do we have left over to budget, and are we running short? Can we even make this happen? Now that's number one. The other cool thing about this spreadsheet is it allows you to compare different options as well. And that's why we have this little additional section over here. This particular budget is basically looking at, like, hey, could, say, one person in the couple step away from their job and be a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad? What would that look like? Because what will happen is it's not just that your income will go down, but your expenses change as well. So this is considering those things. So you look at, hey, like, if we were on one salary and, say, dad's staying home and he wants to go to school, well, we need to budget in the extra money that school is going to cost. But if we have two salaries, well, the tithe is going to be a little bit more. We also have to pay for daycare for the kiddos. There's maybe we want a little bit more furniture just because we can't afford it, and the dog's got to go to daycare as well. So you have all of these additional expenses, which end up being just a little bit more than the school would be. And it's like, hey, can we actually make this happen? And that's why we have different target numbers here too. We have a target for one salary, and we have a target for two salaries. And we have the same thing for the expenses. You have your total expenses for one salary, total expenses for two salaries. So if you're looking at this particular situation, you can see that it's just not going to happen on one salary alone unless something else changes. But it is doable on the two salary plan. Now again, we've highlighted all the things that on this particular budget we've chosen to save for with dates that we want to get these things done. So if you were like, hey, we really want to make the one salary thing work, you have everything you need in front of you to see really what you have to give up. So maybe we're getting a less expensive car, or maybe we're going to wait a year on the car. Maybe we're going to hold off on kids for another year and do this sooner. Or whatever that looks like, you can really compare and contrast your different options and come to a decision together that makes the most sense for you and your partner. And you notice down at the bottom, I was going to point this out, we've made a bunch of different versions of this where we've compared and contrasted different things, and we've looked at multiple years at a time. And that's really exciting too, because just because we didn't, you notice we're not hitting all our goals this year, but that's okay, because some of these other things we can budget for in future years. For instance, like, maybe we have our 3-month emergency fund already saved up in the first year. So year 2, we don't have to worry about that $9,000 or whatever, that it is on this particular budget. And maybe we can start saving for the 6-month emergency budget or emergency fund. Or maybe we can start saving for the house or whatever it is. So you can utilize this in different ways. You can plan for different years. And the point of this isn't to do this specific spreadsheet, but this is just one way to be able to put everything out there in front of you so you can make good decisions as a couple.
Hopefully that was a helpful rendition of how you can use a spreadsheet to project your years. If you did like this, we would love for you to like and subscribe to our channel. We are on a mission to get out of debt, and every like helps us get a step closer to monetizing our channel. We didn't reach that goal last year, but hopefully we can reach it this year. So please like and subscribe. It's a budget-friendly way for you to actually help us out and help small creators out just like us.
So don't forget to budget wisely,
Compromise kindly.
and always be authentically you.
Bye, guys.
See you next time.
Oh, that Taylor Swift song where she's like, I got that red lip classic thing that you like.